Hey there, welcome to ATL and 29, a podcast that looks at the NBA from the starting point of Atlanta. My name is Kevin Chenard. I'm here with Glenn Willis. We're recording on Independence Day, and Summer League's right around the corner, and it's obviously the season for big NBA transactions. But I kind of want to start by backtracking a little bit to the acquisition of Nickeil Alexander-Walker, and I just kind of want to start by thinking about like what does this mean for the Hawks as a team defense when you can, have a fixed number of minutes where you've got one more guard who is an excellent defender in the rotation.
Sorry about that. I muted because there's a loud truck outside for a second. Um, I mean, something they missed last year with Dyson was off the floor, right? They didn't really, Ricochet had flashes of being able to handle, I would say, average creators, and for a 19-year-old, I think that was an impressive job. I think he takes a big step forward and becomes like a third point of attack guy. And we've all seen in the little glimpses that where Kobe's been able to play what he can do as well on the ball. So there's a fourth guy there for you. I mean the thing that really jumps out at me is end of game possessions. You're up by 1 or 2 or 3 points. Less than 10 seconds left. Most coaches want to throw five guys out there that you can just switch everything. So that's probably Dyson, Nickeil Alexander Walker, maybe Ricochet if he feels like he's ready for that, Jalen and Yeka, something along those lines. And I think when you are facing a defense that can switch everything, it's really hard to generate a shot against that. Really really hard to generate a shot against that. And last year it was like we got to keep Dyson on the ball. Like a late game, we got to keep Dyson on the ball, and so teams run stuff to make it very very hard to do that when you only have one guy that can really kind of handle that. So I feel like Nikhil Alexander Walker's presence is just like, hey, if Dyson and Naw are have to get switched, you don't stress about that at all. So I mean, it is gonna be interesting to see what his minutes workload is. We haven't even talked about like, is he going to start? We haven't talked about that yet. And but having another guy who's, I would say, like Alexander Walker is like what 85% of what Dyson is, 90, is pretty close in the replication to what Dyson has. And they that's not something they had last year at all. And it showed when Dyson was off the court.
It feels like this time of year that there are, you know, dozens of little tiny decisions happening on the back end of the roster. The summer league roster has come out. Asen Newell has signed his rookie contract. They didn't extend a qualifying offer to Dominic Barlow. Uh, Eli Njai is on a two-way contract. They've made that official. There's other rumors of two-way contracts. Uh, what do you think about how the back end of the rotation is shaping up here with one or more of any of these little bitty news pieces?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious what they do. So, I mean, they have basically 2 more days to use the TP, whatever portion of the TP they feel like they want to use it, if they want to make a trade to use that. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with that. The timing's a little weird because all these transactions that have been queued up, they basically become official on the 6th, which is when the day that their TPE expires, or at least the Dejounte TPE expires.
Mhm.
Now they could make some minor trade and convert it into another trade exception, so we'll see what kind of maneuvering they do. But for me, it's like, where do they add to the roster? As we talked last time, I still like to see them add one more combo forward that's just a veteran guy that can give you responsible professional play if you need it. But for me, in the backcourt, it's like, do they really believe in Kobe and Veit being the what we'll call them the fourth and fifth guys? Is that what they want to do? I mean, we've talked before. To me, Veets offensive processing is like 99th percentile stuff. But if you put better defenders around him and give him a better defensive situations, I think that's more manageable. And of course, Hawks fans are like, can Kobe stay healthy? And I understand where that question's coming from. But it's gonna be interesting to see if they feel like no, we'd like to add like a veteran point guard that maybe doesn't have to play all the time, but if Kobe gets hurt or if Trey has to miss some time or whatever it might be. I mean, last year they apart from like maybe 3 or 4 games where they managed to win some games without with that Trey didn't play in, it was pretty rough. So I mean, I'd love to ask honestly, are you rolling with Kobe and Veet? Is that what we're doing, or are you working on maybe adding a veteran to the mix as well?
Two other transactions that have happened in the last couple of weeks, basically not on Hawks, but on Skyhawks. Like Kevon Harris has gone and signed a two-way contract with the Rockets. Tony Bradley had his option picked up in Indiana. Another player, Nikola Jurisic, was just a Skyhawk last year. The Hawks have his NBA rights, but he didn't do a two-way contract. He just signed a Skyhawks contract, a regular G League contract last year. He is on the Summer League roster this year. Before we actually get to see what he does in Summer League, like what are we expecting here? Like how much is reasonable to expect? Is he going to be same kind of situation as last year? Is it going to be a two-way contract? Like what do you think that they have in mind for him?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it feels like they made a commitment when they drafted him, and he really took one for the team last year, playing on a non-NBA contract the whole season. I mean, that was very beneficial to the organization to have him do that. So I mean, probably feels like if they're going to fill that 15th spot, that he deserves that, as a reward for what he did. I'm looking forward to seeing him in summer league to see kind of where he is compared to when we last saw him. I know in College Park he seemed to be making some strides, especially offensively, playing on the ball more, running pick and roll, and those things. And so I'm really eager to see kind of where he is. Does it feel like he should be a guy who's penciled into the rotation? No, that doesn't feel true to me at all. But having him in your development program and rewarding him for how selfless he was and from a contract standpoint and all that sort of stuff last year. Just it feels like something that you'd want to do. But I also feel like it shouldn't stand in the way if you go if there's a really really good veteran point guard you could add. I don't know that it's just stand in the way of that either. So to me, they've got to. It's hard. I know it's hard to say like we want to do right by Nico, but also we want to potentially pursue some depth at the position as well. And it doesn't mean they can't do both. There. And I mean, the other part of do we add another forward is sort of like Veet and Kobe. It's like, how big of a role is Mo Gay going to have next year? It's like, are they penciling him in to be, what is it? It'll be the fourth guy in the center power forward combo. That guy usually gets what 12 minutes a game, something along those lines. In that slot, and then you can ramp him up in games where you're playing a team that plays small and you need him to play 25 minutes in a game like that, and he can do that. So for me, it's like so hard to answer. Like, hey, what is the plan for Kobe? Hey, what is the plan for V? What is the plan for Mo? That impacts to me whether they're going to try to go out and add other veteran depth to this roster or just roll with those guys and trust the development, the progress that they've been making over the last year or so.
Yeah, I'm with you. Like he's not going to be part of the rotation, but at the same time, it feels like if you put him on the back end of the regular NBA roster, like this team now that they have this year fits him better than the team that they had last year.
For sure.
And or compare it to what he did in College Park. Like he did not have very good floor spacing in College Park. Like that wasn't a roster, like a G League roster that was suited to him. Like his strength is, like you mentioned for Veet, just processing. Like as he knows where the ball is supposed to go. Like he's gonna make the right decision when he has the ball in his hands. And like, okay, well, what about the rest of his game? Like, if you look at what he did defensively last season, he was, just god awful as a defender in the G League of all places. Like he wasn't ready defensively, and then he took some steps over the course of the season, and they threw him to the fire a little bit in that defensively, they're like, you're going to guard the ball, which for him was a big thing because he's not a small person. Like he's 6'8", 205. And so like you look at if he gets forced into the fire for the Hawks, like this roster, what does it have that it maybe didn't have last year? What it has is I think two things that would suit him very well. It has a lot more shooting, which is, just plays to his strengths, but also like defensively, at the NBA level, he's not really going to be somebody that you want on the point of attack, but like he's, you know, for somebody his age, he's a pretty strong kid. And so like if he's running point on offense, he could like, guard an average to below, average bench three or something like that. That seems something within his capability. If you have somebody like Nickeil Alexander-Walker defending the point of attack, like there's ways to kind of mesh this that I think make it work for him that, he fits the pieces of this roster better than he would have last season. But then, of course, last season he wasn't on a contract. He got hurt. There's all sorts of other things that go into it. But, on paper, in theory, I think he works better with the roster that they have here now.
Yeah, and we'll see where he is, when they start playing next week. But I mean, he does have good size, and he's a good athlete. So you hope that they can kind of get him to commit to technique and being a smart defender and understanding where to be, all that sort of stuff, and be a guy that can be in a switchable lineup, at some point in time. He's still, I mean, even when we saw his play in Europe, if you kind of got a chance to watch a few of his games over there before he came across, just he looked young and experienced, all those sorts of things, which is understandable. But the Hawks do their homework on guys that they draft. Do they work or do they not work? And I think and I think they've had full confidence that he was going to come in and do the work that they're going to ask him to do. And it'll be fun to see next week, kind of where he is on both sides of the court.
Yeah, I agree. But the other thing is like you mentioned, like he's athletic, but I think for him, he looked a lot more athletic in summer league than he did at any point during the G League
Yeah,
season
yeah.
because he had that foot injury and like that, up until like the turn of the calendar year, he didn't look athletic at all. And even when he started to get some of it back February, March, like I don't think he quite got to the level that he had back in summer league of last summer. So I'm intrigued to see if, hey, did he come to get, 100% of his athleticism back this summer compared to what he had last summer. So I think that's kind of a very interesting summer league subplot. Is there anything else about the summer league roster that stands out to you? What do you think about Zachary not playing or Kobe Buffkin playing?
So I mean, I think if the priority is for Zach to work on his body, it makes sense to me to just let him work on his body. You know, I mean that's the biggest change he needed to make was just to get from year one to year two is get stronger, put on some more weight, and all that sort of stuff. So if they felt like this would have disrupted that thing that they're trying to prioritize, I think it makes total sense for him not to play. Would I've enjoyed seeing him play? Of course, I love watching Zachary actually play basketball. And for Kobe, we'll see what that really is. And but I mean, it's an interesting roster. It's funny how fans sometimes get invested in like, oh, this roster could win the championship. And I think what fans who don't have a chance to kind of go to summer league don't understand is like most teams don't have any interest in like playing that much basketball. You get in the tournament, you got to play like three games in 5 days. It's grueling, and it's a way to get your guys hurt. If you're like really kind of pressing for that. So like almost like I don't know, I feel like all but like three or four teams or something like that are just like we're gonna go 2-2 or whatever, 2-3 or 3-2 or whatever, and be done and be happy with that. We're really just looking for the reps. But this is like I remember like in the Bud era, like every year you watch this, you look at the summer league roster and it's a different roster. We talked about the fact that there's no continuity at all, and you'd watch teams like Miami bring the same guys back 2 or 3 years in a row, and they're not even they're not even rostered, but they're in the G League or whatever, And now we're starting to see more continuity, and we're starting to see a higher caliber of player being willing to come play for the Hawks because they have a serious development program. And you see guys kind of being rewarded with that. I mean, Tony Bradley worked his tail off in College Park, was a total pro, and he's playing on the floor of the NBA Finals this year. Because because of just how dependable he is with the things that you need. So I think it's going to be a fun roster. It's going to be one of the better rosters we've had uh, in a while. But we'll see. How many games each of the guys play, and and all that sort of stuff. So it should be fun.
Yeah, it seems like one of the deeper. There've certainly been some rosters that didn't feel particularly deep.
Yeah.
This one feels deep, and yeah, if the Hawks want to make a run at the championship, sure, go for it. But cut Kobe up Buffkin off after like 3 games. That's enough. Just
Yeah.
get his feet wet, get his confidence up, keep him healthy. Like I don't want to
Yeah.
see Kobe play 5 games in 6 days. We don't need that.
Yeah, it's another one of those things though where he's probably there as much for leadership as anything else. Give him a chance to kind of be a vocal leader and all that sort of stuff, and which he's very capable of doing. I mean, I love watching him play. I hope he stays healthy this year. I hope he's a regular part of the rotation this year. I root for him. I know Hawks fans are like, some Hawks fans are like, he can't stay healthy. If you watch that kid play in person, I mean, you can see like the flashes of what his capabilities are. And he's just a very versatile guy on both ends of the court. But it's fair to say, like, gotta take care of his body and stay healthy.
It's funny because it's like, I mean, he's a young guy, of course, and young for an NBA player, of course. It feels like he kind of waxes and wanes. Like it feels like there was, a 3 week period where he looked like the world's greatest offensive player in the G League. And
Yeah,
then at the NBA level, there was like a 3 week period where he just looked like a, you know, A- NBA level defender at the point of attack. Like it's like you see these spurts on one end and on the other end, and it's like there's potential for like all of this stuff. It's just a matter of, can you do both at the same time? Can you stay healthy? Can you continue to grow and learn? There's a lot there. If I were the Hawks, I wouldn't be selling yet. I wouldn't be giving up yet because he can do a lot of things.
yeah, he's smart player, team guy, plays hard, just kind of works through adversity. We've seen that, a lot. And but I think a major difference is in the G League, if you're playing, say, 28 minutes or whatever, then you go play on an NBA team and you're getting 4.5 minutes a half. Like, how do you make an impact in those 4.5 minutes or whatever the number ends up being for you? That's hard. That's a compressed, amount of time to try. And you can't, you don't have 4 possessions to get like warmed up. You got to, in 4.5 minutes, you're getting what, like 15 to 17 possessions, maybe something along those lines. And you want to make an impact on every single one of those possessions. And that's something young players have to learn how to do, is be ready to jump in and make an impact right away. And because the starters get the first couple minutes to kind of warm up, get the blood flowing, and all that sort of stuff. When you're coming in, you have a short stint off the bench like that. You got to be ready to go immediately, and that's something young players have to learn how. Kobe's been a starter and one of the best players on every team he's ever played on until he got to the NBA. And so that hasn't been a thing for him, and so it's a big difference.
Um, One sec. Do you have any thoughts at all on like summer league coaching staffs?
No,
I know the Hawks have Brian Bailey, one of their assistant coaches, as the summer league head coach this season. Like, what I know you like to go to these summer league games and hear
yeah.
the terminology and sit up close. Like, what do you when you do that? Like, what do you in your own personal like fashion? What do you want to hear out of a coach that makes you kind of sit up
Yeah.
and take notice?
Yeah, so for me, it is a great, like, especially if you go into the smaller gym. right? In the big gym, it's a little harder to hear because they have normal game up stuff going on, music and all that sort of stuff. In the smaller gym, they don't have as much of that going on. So you can literally sit like right behind the bench in the smaller gym, right? And that's what I when I'm there, that's what I try to do. And what's interesting for me is seeing a guy like him running a game, managing a game, and watching how he does that, watching how he relies on his assistant coaches that are there as well, and taking that sort of collaborative approach that you like to see. The other thing you get to see that is hard to see in NBA arena and smaller gym, you can also hear everything. You hear every you hear defenses calling out red, left, you can hear all the defensive language that so you can there's so much you can learn in that smaller gym. But what's also interesting is with these kids that are coming out of college or coming out of Europe or whatever, and they're getting coached by actual NBA coaches. How do they receive that coaching? There'll be it's funny the year that Charles Lee, I think I've told this story a few times. The year that Charles Lee was the Hawks summer league coach, and they had Diamond Stone on the roster, and all game long when Diamond's on the floor, Charles Lee was like, "Hands, Diamond, hands." And I was hearing that in my sleep because he must have said it like 100 times a game because Diamond wouldn't put his hands up, as we all like Charles is up for attention to detail, and all that sort of stuff. But that's an example of, is the guy responding to the coaching? Does the guy look confused by when he's in the middle of the game and not there's not a timeout, he's getting some sort of instruction. You can see, is it processing or is it not processing, or is this the first time he's kind of heard this concept? Is this the first time he's playing in this an NBA concept? You can actually see players, you know, oh, it makes sense, go execute it right away, or other players like, I'm not really sure what you're asking me to do. And so that's why that setting is so interesting to me. And if you like, I like to pick like 4 or 5 teams and watch them throughout the whole week and watch those players get better at those things. Every That's such an interesting journey to watch across a week as well.
It's funny that you mentioned Charles Lee and Diamond Stone because that was literally my next question and my next comment was I was just going to ask you, as you watch this transactional period of the NBA, if there was sort of one team that kind of stood out to you as intriguing, because for me, I'm kind of intrigued by the Hornets. I feel like, for the first time in like 2 decades, like the Hornets have, you know, a reasonable plan for acquiring and drafting players and developing them. But at the same time, it's like the one thing that I wonder about like Charlotte's front office and the coaching is like, are they going to get a center? Like, how are they going to make this center thing work? Like, it seems like they've got a very deep team apart from center. But let me just ask you, though, which team across the NBA stands out to you as sort of intriguing based on what they've done in acquiring players the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I mean, Charlotte's an interesting use case because to me, like, I feel like the question there is, do you want to continue building around LaMelo? You know, is he like a foundational player or is he not a foundational player? Like, to me, that's still trying to be, even though he's been in the league a while now, the defense, not always there,
Not
it's not
often there.
he's
You can say it.
it's rough, and I mean he's great with the ball in his hands, but the ball sticks with him, a lot, and that's something that hasn't really changed. And so I feel like who he is now is probably who he's going to be. And when like what Charles Lee wants, which is motion and movement and cutting and screening and all creating tension through all of that sort of stuff, and will LaMelo kind of commit to doing that? And so to me, the big kind of fork in the road for them is, um, do they want to continue kind of building around him? I mean, the other team that's interesting to me is Orlando. Adding Bain, I feel like they still don't have a point guard. You know, Suggs is not a point guard. Suggs is an incredible defender. And he's a lot of fun to watch play defense. But are they done? And is Charlotte going to sit on Colin Sexton, or might they trade him? Like, or is he available to be dealt? It's hard for me to know. When they acquired Sexton, it's like, well, does that mean they're going to try to trade LaMelo? Let Sexton kind of be your start, because Sexton can do a lot of the stuff that Charles Lee wants. So Sexton plays as hard as anybody in the league every minute he's on the floor. you know, and that's maybe not what you get from LaMelo all the time, all the time. So Orlando's intriguing to me. The thing for me is that uh, Paolo, he's an interesting guy to watch because um, I mean, he really like thinks a lot of himself, and it's very, very clear. And he's, pretty exceptional for a guy his size and skill. But I still think he needs a point guard who can set him up. He has to work so hard all on his own, way more than he should have to, because of the fact that they don't have a point guard, and Franz
Is
is not
it
a point
just that they
guard.
don't have a point guard? Because it just doesn't feel like they're just doesn't seem like they have a good complementary fit across the whole lineup. Like it just
Sure.
I
Yeah,
don't
but like he has to handle the ball more than he should. Franz has to handle the ball more than he should. And Cole Anthony, wanted opportunity like that, but he's in Memphis now and may or may not stay. Well, we're gonna have to kind of see what happens with him. There's some rumors around that, but for me, it's like you know, I want to see young guys like that be set up for success. And the trash talking you can hear Paulo do on the court in the middle of the game kind of drives me crazy, because it's like, dude, like, you know, I don't know. I believe in sportsmanship. Maybe that's old fashioned, or whatever. But and I know that there's
you
trash
and
talking, but
DeJounte
there's
both.
there, huh?
You and DeJounte both.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. No head bopping, Dejounte. But and I understand that there's a certain amount of that. That's part of NBA. Part of the NBA fabric is the trash talking. But his like is very condescending, and I'm like, yeah, you haven't really accomplished anything yet, to be talking like that to someone else. So, and he's young, so maybe he'll mature, into a little bit more graceful way to trash talk. I don't know. But he's a lot of fun to me. He's a lot of fun to watch. He's really a guy who has like a really, really high offensive ceiling. And everyone like to say that Franz Wagner is better. Franz has got to learn how to shoot the basketball if he's going to be better than Paolo Macaro. For me, and Franz does a lot of good work, but that's the team I'm really interested in following this year. Detroit obviously is a team that's going to be, I think, fascinating all over again with Ivy coming back, the additions that they've made. Karras is going to help them a ton. It's going to be interesting to see how they sort out the center position and if they continue to kind of roll that same group back or if they look for something a little bit different. That group, I think, is kind of probably hit their ceiling to a degree and they are what they are. So that's the other one that I would put on there. And then I mean the other one is a weird situation is Portland. That team, man, they play hard. They play really, really hard, and they compete and they don't, and they're right down the road, so it's easy for me to get down for a game on a Saturday and Sunday. It's only a couple hours right down the road, so be able to get to like I get that like 8 games last year down there, which was a lot of fun, and
We got to bring
everything.
you
But
expansion.
huh?
We got to bring you expansion.
Yeah, I know. So those are the three that kind of jump out to me. Like the Lakers, I feel like they're still a mess. The Clippers are fascinating, but they're really relying on Kawhi maybe being healthy and Harden's 1 year older. But they added Brooke Lopez, and that's going to be some nice, a differentiator for when Zubac is off, and Lopez can give some spacing and just a different thing to put on the floor, stuff like that. But those are the ones that jump at me now. Houston, I feel
I
like
was
I
just
don't know
about
if
to ask you about
they
that.
got
What are they doing with
17.
their bigs? They have
Yeah, 17 centers it feels like on their roster, and the amount of money that they have like consolidated the center position is wild. So it's like, are they going to trade Şengün? Like, what are they
yeah.
doing? So I feel like they're not done. They can't carry four centers. Like you can't play four centers. You can't play four, and of course they played a lot of two center lineups last year. So Udoka might be watch me, Glenn. We're going to play four centers. But it just feels like that. It feels like they're not done there. So those are the ones that jump out to me.
Yeah, just going back to Charlotte, like, and the Lonzo question, I feel like they haven't made up their mind yet. Like, I feel like they want to have this one season where they feel like they've put a better team around him to see what it looks like. But we'll see.
I'm not the biggest LaMelo guy, so
Oh, I said Lonzo. Sorry, my bad. LaMelo. Whew.
my
Apologies
brain
to
my
all.
brain's mush. I spent the last 2 days managing the most nasty cyber incident I've ever managed. So I'm lucky I'm getting half of what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and
I
I'm the
haven't had
one
any
screwing
sleep.
up, so that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Is there anything else about the Summer League roster? Is there any one player that we haven't mentioned yet? We're like, I want to see what he does.
I'm not really. I for me, what the Hawks do is they try to play as a team. And so what I want to see is the togetherness and the commitment to kind of, the principles of what they do on both ends of the court. And so for me, that kind of takes me away from wanting to see a single guy. I mean, it will be interesting to see where Nico is, and it'll be fun to see some of the kid they brought over from Europe, and obviously watch Asa play, how he's doing stuff like that. But if you've watched the Hawks like I go every year, right? And if you watch the Hawks play, it is about the concepts they're trying to execute. It's not about you individually. It is about move the ball, move the ball, move the ball, move off the ball, all that sort of stuff. And on defense, it's communicate, stay connected, and the coaching, like the verbal coaching with those young kids, is nonstop to keep those guys focused on the concepts. And then you'll watch another team play with like a high draft pick, and you'll watch whatever, who's that person this year you're going to go watch, and it's like they just let them do what they want for the whole game. That is not the way the Hawks play summer league basketball, in this era at all. It is the same stuff the big league team does, the same concepts, all that stuff, and it's fun to watch for me, because I love watching like fundamentally sound a team that's really trying to be fundamentally sound and commit to the principles that of what you're being asked to do. And the guys the Hawks bring in are guys that they trust will embrace all of that stuff. And that's not what every other team is always doing.
I want to see what the Nets look like with the five ball handlers that they used first round draft picks.
Are they gonna introduce a rule change to try to have two balls in the game? For first time.
Yeah, I'm definitely intrigued to see what the Summer League team looks like for the Nets.
Yeah,
All right. Well, I appreciate you having the time to do this, and we'll probably do this again before you actually go. But since we've talked about it so much, have a great trip to Las Vegas, Glenn.
I will. Thanks, Kevin.
And good night, Bob.
Good night, Bob.